All right, guys. Hello, Internet, as I often greet
Internet.
for some reason. I'm Justin. I'm here with my buddies Casey and Noah. We are the Cinema Joes, as you probably know. And we just finished our alternative superhero film marathon, which has been pretty cool. We explored 6 movies about heroes that you may not have heard of, that might have kind of flown under the radar. And we're going to sort of talk about our general reactions to the 6 movies that we watched. I know for myself, guys, this was like an opportunity to really explore a genre that I was frankly feeling a little bit disillusioned with, like I was kind of losing interest, and try to see. I guess I was trying to see if maybe this marathon could introduce me to films in this genre that maybe try to do something a little different. And I'd say definitely the last 2 movies for me showed that, maybe more so than the first 4. Super and Unbreakable.
I, on the other hand, I'm really a huge fanboy of the modern superhero craze.
Mm-hmm.
So while I love those movies, they definitely are mainstream, and I appreciate getting to see the other side of things. So that was interesting to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm kind of in the middle here, because I don't love the Marvel movies. I mean, I really like Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy, which I think we have to include in any discussion of mainstream superhero movies.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think the reason why Chris Nolan's Batman movies are favorites of mine from the current wave of that genre is that they do have more of the individual idiosyncrasies and looks and feels of the person creating them. Because if you're familiar with Chris Nolan's work, he has a very unique style. He plays around with narrative, and that's in the Batman movies.
Yeah.
I mean, Dark Knight Rises, like the last one, is pretty straightforward. But the first 2, in terms of the narrative structure, but the first 2 really do feel like Chris Nolan films. So they have that sort of signature feel to them, as opposed to being something that was just rubber stamped by a studio. So I think that is a sign that the superhero movies that stand out the most are the ones that do have that kind of unique flavor to them. Or like the first Iron Man, which again was very new. That sort of comic book movie hadn't been made before.
That was actually, I think we'll talk about this more when we talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. But the first Iron Man movie was separate from the Marvel Studios. Marvel came in and took over after that film was a success. That's why it stands out as sometimes better than the rest. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I'm not saying whether or not it's better, but so I was kind of in the middle where I neither love nor hate the current round of superhero movies. I mean, I don't care for Man of Steel, but I really do like the Avengers series. All the movies are fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go into them with any expectations other than to just have an enjoyable time. So, but given that, I do understand why people are getting kind of sick of them and why there's a lot of blowback against them. So this was a fun chance to, especially to see offerings from the superhero genre that I otherwise really would not have taken the time to watch. Except for Unbreakable. Unbreakable, I was already aware of and interested in prior to this.
Right.
But I hadn't taken the time yet to see it, so this was my excuse to sit down and watch it, along with a few other films that I otherwise would not have given the time of day to. And I'm really glad that I did.
And it's funny because like most of these I had heard of, but I was like, oh, I'll get to that at some point. But then I was kind of like, when I was thinking about a marathon that we could do that I thought would probably interest the 3 of us, I was kind of like, well, that might be, this might be the time to maybe explore things like Darkman, which I had heard of, and The Crow. But like, there are some other, like Swamp Thing, I kind of got as like a recommendation from some people. I knew about Swamp Thing, the character, like the comic character, but I didn't realize there was an actual movie made by Wes Craven of all people. But yeah, some of the other ones I had, like, it was kind of like, it kind of gave me a chance to really explore some of the movies that people have been recommending to me, but I hadn't really had a chance to see. So I guess in that sense, I'm glad for it. Was it essential to see? Like, I really feel like for me, this project was, up until Unbreakable, I was kind of like, this stuff feels a little bit familiar. Like it doesn't. Like I guess I was hoping it was going to be a little more. I don't know. More. I almost wanted a lot of those films to really embrace their ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Kind of like something like Buckaroo Banzai, which we did not do because I wasn't sure if I'd really call it a superhero movie. That I was kind of hoping for something like that really embraces the silliness and the ridiculousness of it all.
I think Buckaroo Banzai kind of falls under sci-fi.
Yeah, see, that's why I was, cause like, and I had seen it before, so I was like, I'd really like to do that, but I just don't know if it really, you know, and he's not really like a superhero, like he doesn't have like a secret identity. It doesn't really wrestle with any issues of what it means to be a superhero or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, but yeah, I am glad that I got to experience these films and that I can talk about them.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So.
I'm especially I really enjoyed watching Darkman specifically. I mean, I enjoyed all. I'm not saying this would be the best movie of the bunch, but I really liked watching that one because I felt it was very inspirational for some of the Dark Knight trilogy. So I liked being able to go back to see where Nolan may have gotten his ideas from. I think it was a really interesting development in the superhero.
See a shockingly young Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Like,
but I enjoyed watching.
And in a relationship with Francis Gorman,
I mean,
which is something I never thought I would see in film.
Awesome, but.
I also enjoyed. I'm thankful I got to see Super and Unbreakable, like Justin said. They are interesting movies that everyone should see. Whether or not they are good movies is another arguable point, but they're certainly interesting developments in the superhero franchise.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole idea of Super was it's like, okay, let's take a realistic look at what would happen if someone tried to become a costumed hero. Focusing a lot more on the blood and guts aspect of it, focusing a lot more on the, kind of socio-pathological tendencies you would probably have to have.
And the fallibility of a regular human being, which I really enjoyed that part.
The fallibility of a regular human being. And I got that. I got that going. It was the same with. It was kind of like with Kick-Ass. I got what they were trying to do. I just didn't think they succeeded entirely. And I do think that Watchmen was a better version of that. I'm trying to dig into the psychological complexities of someone who would do something like becoming a masked hero.
Yeah, and I really feel like I like Super. I've seen both now, like Kick-Ass and Super, and I think Super really stuck to its guns. No pun intended.
Stuck with wrench.
Really committed to the idea.
The way Kick-Ass does.
Yeah, and there is the climax of Super. I think is a lot more over the top and starts to be a little fantastical, but it's done in such a way that's very different from the way Kick-Ass handles its climax. Because in Super, you have him basically going on a rampage because of the death of Ellen Page's character. And that to me kind of felt like just the encapsulation of him and the identity that he's chosen for himself, as opposed to Kick-Ass, where it's kind of like, well, we still kind of want it to be a comic book movie, so we have to have him firing a bazooka at the back. Like, it doesn't really, I'm not sure it really adds anything other than to make it kind of fun. It kind of gets away from the premise of what it really what it would actually be like to be a superhero. Like,
yeah, and no moral issues left over at the end whatsoever.
No, none at all.
Like the girl who's been trained to kill without a second thought just goes to high school and la-di-da-di-da.
And I have not seen the second one. I have zero desire to see it because I was not a fan of the first one.
No.
But I have heard that it's pretty, a lot of people say it's good. Like Jim Carrey's the one good thing.
Now, I've heard a lot of people complain that he wasn't even in it as long as they thought he'd be.
Jim Carrey needs to be in more serious stuff. He was always really interesting to watch playing a serious role. I'm a little sick of his comedy, though.
Yeah. Have you seen Eternal Sunshine?
It's a lot like...
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Oh, yeah, that to me is like Jim Carrey's finest work.
Yeah.
And he's most
Wait, which movie?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, I still have to see that.
Oh, so good.
My favorite movie is still The Truman Show.
Truman Show? Yeah, that's good.
But I agree with you. It's a lot like, it's really the same way I always felt about Robin Williams. I liked some of Robin Williams' more comical movies.
Well, I like him as both, really. I could take Robin Williams as both.
I always really liked Robin Williams in his serious roles. Like, that was always where he made a real impact on me.
Did you
Hence,
see
here.
what Dreams May Come? It's a
No.
Robin Williams film. It's really, yeah, it's probably one of his lesser known works, but his performance in it, the story in it is just, it stays with you for a long time. So I definitely recommend that one. What Dreams May Come. And of course, it's a Shakespeare reference, that title. I'm sure you know. Yeah. Anyway, getting back to track though.
Right.
So yeah, Super and Unbreakable, really interesting developments in the superhero genre. Justin, you want to go into your question? You want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in line with what we've been discussing. I guess my question is just, do you guys feel like, because when I started this, I was hoping for films that are maybe outside of the major studios, and that really had a chance to and most of them were made by like a writer director, where you have a director who's very, very creatively involved in not just how it happens, but what happens. And I guess the question is just, do you guys feel like did we see really personal visions here, or do you feel like this genre needs that kind of vision?
And it's a good question, and I think the consensus that I'm just going to rehash is the first 4 films felt like your standard early, just beat 'em ups, kind of nothing special about them in terms of story, vision kind of aspect.
Yeah.
They were just the same old good versus bad, I'll protect you, damsel in distress kind of situation, nothing unique. But then you get to, like we've been saying, Super and Unbreakable. And while they don't really deviate too far, you guys kind of get to see the superhero in a different light. So I think those 2 films may very well have succeeded. But
and also visually, like in terms of visual style, Unbreakable is very much an M. Night Shyamalan film. The very deliberate, the very slow pacing, the very carefully set up camera shots. Like, that's that's how Shyamalan does all of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak so much for what's his name, James Gunn or Peter Gunn?
James Gunn.
James Gunn. Yeah.
James Gunn. I haven't seen any of James Gunn's other movies outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, so I can't say too much in terms of his style. But Super also did feel like a very deliberate and a very specific attempt to kind of skewer the superhero genre, and I think it worked to some extent. Yeah. But even there, I would say I did get the sense that was more of a unique vision. I would say the same thing for Darkman as well. I think Darkman and Crow especially, because both of those movies, I did feel like there was a very specific world and a very specific setting that they were trying to bring to life. Whereas Mystery Men felt a little bit like they were trying to throw too much in there at once, Like there were too many ideas that were batting around, and then Swamp Thing where they just had no money.
I'm definitely with you guys. I feel like the first 4 movies in this, as we were going through, I was like, I was kind of hoping these were going to be a little more unique than they were, because I felt like maybe stylistically they were somewhat unique, but in other ways, like the general structure, the general story structure was very similar to things we've seen before. Even if not necessarily in the superhero genre, we've seen them in like vigilante movies, Quests of Vengeance and that kind of thing. And I was kind of like, wow, I was like, wow, maybe this marathon wasn't as, I was really debating, like, was it really worth it just to see, like, these kinds of, like, lower budgeted, with, like, touches of, I think some touches of brilliance, but just that, touches. And I really felt like with Unbreakable and Super, I was like, this is more what I was hoping to get out of this marathon. And I didn't necessarily love either of them. But they were definitely making a conscious effort to go beyond the expected structure that we expect of superhero films, and actually say something about humanity, really, and using the superhero genre to do that.
Yeah.
And I had my problems. We might get into that, but I really felt like I kind of my only regret with this marathon, I was hoping for more films like that, like the last 2 that we saw. But I felt like the first 4 maybe had touches, whereas the last 2 really felt like overhauls. of the superhero genre. And I think it shows the potential, and that was another thing I was looking for at this marathon, shows the potential of the superhero genre not to just be what we expect, not to have the expected story beats, not to, to complete a checklist. And so for that, I'm very grateful for this marathon, for those last two movies. They made it worth it, even with their flaws.
Could you tell me, as I mentioned that earlier, I'm a huge fanboy of the mainstream Marvel, specifically the Marvel universe. What exactly about the films, about all the superhero films, are you guys finding? What disappoints you about the mainstream Marvel superhero?
I'll let
Wow, I
Justin
can't
answer
speak
that.
today.
I'm not. I'll let Justin answer that because, like I said, I really have no bones to chew in regards to anything related to superheroes or comic books. I'm just here for the ride. So
yeah, I think for me, it's not that I haven't really hated any of the Marvel movies that I've seen, but I felt this kind of growing apathy for them. Like I guess I haven't been able to take any of them really seriously, even like in the more serious moments where it's clear they are trying to create some drama. I mean, we'll talk about Guardians because I feel like that movie did work for me, but maybe the more serious moments in that movie didn't work as well for me. Mm-hmm. I guess it's just like they start to bleed together a little bit. I don't just mean the Marvel movies. I mean, to be fair, I have not seen the recent Spider-Man movies. Just because I just have this growing apathy for this genre.
Yeah, and you're really not missing anything with the Spider-Man films. They're the same old
and
stuff.
I've seen parts of them, which to be fair is not always like going to be a good judgment of how the movie works in its entirety. But I've seen part of them, like nothing in this convinces me that I'm missing anything.
The main contenders are Marvel and DC, even though I know Noah doesn't really care for the Man of Steel, and it definitely had its problems. I think,
but that's the thing. Like DC's record has been much more spotty. I mean, Man of Steel. There were a lot of people who liked Man of Steel. It was much more controversial.
Story-wise, I didn't think it succeeded, but what I love about superhero movies and what superhero movies have the ability to do, and why they're so popular, even outside the cinematic world, they show us as humans what we can be if we were to get to the next level. If we could get rid of our own, they're the modern gods of ancient Greece.
Yes, Greek gods.
And so I really love when we can see them struggling on a similar level we struggle with. Like, they are these super perfect beings, and yet they still have to struggle somewhere. So I want to see their struggles, and that's why I did enjoy Man of Steel, especially the end. Big spoiler. I don't know if Justin's seen it.
I haven't seen it, but you can go ahead and spoil it.
So in the end, when Superman kills Zod, fans of Superman freaked out. They're like, Superman doesn't kill. What? But you see him make the decision to kill this man for the greater good, even though he's against.
Although, and I'm not the first one to point this out, how many people were killed prior to that point by their fight?
Oh, absolutely. But if it wasn't for Superman's fighting,
how much space was there for that family to just run away?
Yeah.
There was a lot. They were like,
maybe it sounds like
they were just saying it's like the guys in the old Godzilla films that just stand there and they're like, "Whoa, he's about to step on me."
I'm not saying the writing and the direction were fantastic, but I really
like the execution wasn't as good as maybe the concept.
Right.
The concept was great. The execution was
Yes.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm surprised they picked Snyder to do the second one too. I guess they just like him, even though he hasn't.
Snyder has one genuinely great movie, and that is Watchmen.
I don't know if I go that far, but okay.
I consider Watchmen to be the closest thing to a great film he has done.
That's fair.
Okay.
I haven't seen Legends of the Guardians, not to be confused with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Or Legends of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is what the next one will be called.
This time, it's not just raccoons.
Guardians of the Empire Striking Back Galaxy.
And that's why I think Batman is such a popular hero just in general, because he's so relatable, and yet he struggles with this very human Okay, he's relatable
Not
plus a lot of
everyone
money.
has money.
But he's human. He's not Superman. You know, he can take a bullet and he's gonna die.
Yeah.
You see him overcome this struggle and do great things with it, and so he really is the height of our modern human state.
That's a lot of people would debate you on that.
Bring him on. I'll defend myself. They're allowed to in the comments below. You can
With your
say what
utility belt.
I really feel like I'm waiting. Well, actually, no. There is one exception I can think of. Because I feel like the superhero genre for me, I'm still waiting for there are plenty of genres where I feel like there hasn't been something great until much later after a genre's really been established.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if we're kind of waiting for the really. To me, I mean, I'm sure for other people it might be different, but to me, I haven't seen the only great superhero movie I can think of is actually one that's not live action. It's The Incredibles. And that to me really that I was actually debating putting that on our list, but I decided against it because I thought let's stick with stuff we're maybe not as familiar with.
I actually haven't seen The Incredibles.
And oh really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's about superheroes, but it's also about family dynamics, really. And it kind of uses that genre to really say something about the family. And
Also,
it uses animation.
Also, it's a Brad Bird movie. Enough said.
It is Brad Bird, yes.
What worries me about what you just said is that we may have hit that point where we were watching movies back from the 80s in this marathon or earlier. When was Swamp Thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
82?
Really,
It may
82.
have, the genre may have been established back then, and then Marvel is that thing that you're waiting for. And I know they're not fantastic in terms of depth, the Marvel films, not all of them anyway. But they're very polished, and they're always enjoyable.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when we get into Guardians, we can talk about it's a $170 million budget, so it looks fantastic. And I guess it might be just that it might be a personal thing where it's I think the movies I tend to respond to more. I mean, well, not necessarily, but I tend to seek out a lot of the more independent kind of movies. I guess I guess sometimes it's hard for me to just have fun, though there are exceptions. I really like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, obviously, the first three, anyway.
But even those are they have a lot of humanity to them.
Yeah, and they have exactly. There's something more. There's something more there, and I guess I'm still waiting for a super. And I think the Dark Knight films have come pretty close. I guess one of my issues with them is I feel like they're very didactic. They really want you to know what they're about, so they put it into the dialogue all the time. And I really love the aesthetic of those films, but I'm still waiting for maybe. And I don't know. Maybe Nolan's gonna, do something maybe I don't know if he's gonna do more superhero films. I mean, he's kind of been producing, and he actually.
He's doing Interstellar. I look forward to that movie.
I was thinking more superhero stuff. I didn't know if he was going to be doing it.
Well, by the way, let's just have a little bit aside and acknowledge the incredible awesomeness of the second Interstellar trailer. Because it features Michael Caine. It features Michael Caine quoting "Do not go gentle into that good night."
Yeah.
I wasn't really excited about this movie until I saw some of the trailers, and now I can't wait for it.
The moment I heard about it, I was like, oh, Chris Nolan is going back to what he does best.
Yeah. My only, I really liked the trailer, but the one thing about it that was not disappointing, but I kind of wonder if they played their hand a little too much, is they show this, it's a brief shot of them, on some kind of alien planet. And it's kind of I'm well, why did you need any of that? Just show them in space. That's all you need. We want to see where they're going to go. So leave that for the film, right?
I don't know.
Because the premise of them going through a wormhole, which is really cool, and I can't wait to see what they do with that. And I don't know, it was just showing something like that explicit to me. It was just kind of oh, they're on a planet. Well, that's.
I get the feeling that the writers and directors don't have too much say in the trailer.
No, I'm not blaming Nolan or anyone. Anyone who was actually involved in the movie.
Right.
Whoever did the trailer, I guess, is the one.
That's been I've been noticing that more and more. It really comes down to what the marketing people think will work.
Yeah.
That's really and it's disappointing.
True, yeah. Which is why so many trailers feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But also,
But,
and the thing is, like, Chris Nolan has always been very good at having some sort of twist in his films that
yeah.
that you really can't encompass in a trailer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just with Inception, the thrill of having to follow, like, the 3 or 4 different dream narratives at once.
Yeah.
You know, is something, you know, you got bits of those scenes in the trailer, but it was the experience of watching them all together that made the movie. So I think it's going to be, I'm hoping it's going to be like that with Interstellar. But anyway, short aside, just
So
had to acknowledge.
let me ask you guys now, unless Justin, you wanted to go out with something.
No, that's okay.
Let me ask you guys. Every recap of the movies we did, or at least most of them, I think I missed some of them. I tried to ask if the character is a hero. And so now that we've seen 6 different types of heroes, I'm just trying to figure out what is the definition of hero. We keep talking about, are these guys heroes, but we still have no idea what that is. We don't even know if Iron Man or Batman or Superman counts as a hero, and if they do, why? What's the definition? What does it mean to be a hero?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that you see time and time again in these movies, it's not just, and I think that the way hero has been defined throughout history has always been someone with extraordinary abilities or strengths above other people, but I think what you see in these superhero movies is not just that alone, but also the ability to use that skill for selfless reasons, for other people. Which is why, you know, some of the heroes that we've seen in these movies might not fit that definition.
Particularly the Crow, based on that definition.
Right. And because the Crow is only about his former
well, it's his own personal revenge. It is his own personal revenge. He's not trying to
stopped he would have stopped at the 4th guy who was responsible for the death of both himself and his wife.
Right.
It's only when the one guy decides he's going to do something, you know, and try to hurt someone who is also close to him, where he decides, okay, now I have to, you know, like it's very tight knit for that character.
Yeah.
So in the sense of him having extraordinary abilities, yes. Yeah. A lot of the earlier heroes we saw were, I think, well, even some of the later ones, maybe.
I would say up to Mystery Men.
The Crimson Bolt.
I lost you. Did we lose Justin?
Unbreakable is where he. What's that?
We lost you for a second. So you were saying, 4 out of 6 of these movies don't fit that definition because Swamp Thing, Darkman, Crow, and Rainn Wilson from Super are motivated by somewhat selfish reasons. They might kind of use selfless reasons to justify what they're doing, but they're motivated by selfish reasons. The only ones who really do good for doing good is Unbreakable. And I might even argue Mystery Men isn't good for doing good. They're doing good for fame. They want to be known as heroes, not jokes. So, I don't know. I mean, even Tony Stark started off as kind of selfish. Well, self-defense. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Bruce Wayne runs away from Gotham. He flees Gotham. And Superman tries to hide his identity. So that is part of the idea of all these stories. Is how each of these characters, each of these, you know, alleged heroes overcomes their own personal demon or whatever that prevents them from doing good for other people.
I'll tell you, I have two.
So maybe that's it. Yeah.
I have 2 potential definitions of hero that I've been that had come across in the last week while I was thinking about it and watching YouTube videos and whatnot. So one of them is fighting to keep the status quo, like say the Russian government back during the Cold War, right, had invaded America. The superhero, the heroes are going to be the ones protecting the status quo, oust the invaders. That type of hero. That's one definition I came across. But again, I don't think any of these that we've seen or in the mainstream really fit that definition. Fighting to keep the status quo. Maybe Superman in the Man of Steel, but that's such a huge score.
Existential threat.
Yeah, that if he didn't do anything, well, fuck, we're doomed. So I don't know. and then the other definition is fighting against corruption, or another word for, you know, evil. But then you get into the whole definition of what's evil, blah blah blah.
Well, it's like preservation, they're fighting to preserve something, or fighting for, I guess, revolution in a way, or fighting to actively change the status quo.
And I
So
think it's
I think you mean, just to clarify, you're saying that most superheroes fall into one of two categories, either trying to preserve something or trying to completely change something.
And I think it's really interesting to note that even the same superhero might change what they're motivated by due to the times. You know, since they are a reflection of our culture and of our society.
Yeah.
It might not we might not be able to find a right definition because it's constantly changing. We look to heroes to be, you know, an extension of our own selves and our own world and society and culture, and that might change what it means to be a hero every so many years. So I think I'll have to give up my quest for a definition.
That was a short question.
Oh, you know, it's funny that a lot of these movies that we've seen, especially some of the earlier ones, which had lower budgets, were also kind of more intimate in scale.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't like, you know, you couldn't have a huge climactic battle like you have in, say, the Avengers at the end of, you know, The Crow. It's not going to happen. Like, you just don't have the budget to do that. Or maybe even the technology in 1994. But so I wonder if maybe that's maybe what makes them alternative superheroes, is that they're maybe not as concerned with, you know, a big overarching kind of change or salvation, but are more focused on the immediate. And I feel like that's maybe what makes these more alternative or more like cult kind of superheroes, because their world is a little smaller. They haven't quite gotten to that part where it's like, oh, now we're charged with saving the world.
That's true. A lot of, especially like say when I was watching Darkman, it felt like an origin story. You know, the origin story is usually very, I mean, even Unbreakable, the origin story is usually very intimate, and then they can expand from there. So Darkman may very well have gone to save the world, to be the Batman of wherever the hell they were.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we want to hop over to the awards now?
Sure.
That's a
So
good
we
idea,
got
yeah.
some awards. Everyone loves awards. For
Yeah.
the 6
I thought
movies
you
we've
were-
seen,
Very prestigious awards.
do we want to? Should I just go down the list of each of the awards? Just
Yeah,
to give them an
we can say
overview.
a little bit about each one.
Okay, so most of these are self-explanatory. First, best costume. You know, which of the costumes do we think had the most effort, that fit into the vision of the story and the world? We have best sidekick or ally. Justin, you want to give a rundown of that one?
Oh yeah, that's just kind of like anyone who helps the hero of the title, who might not have superpowers themselves, but was someone essential to, you know, helping the hero complete his or her quest.
Best actress and actor, those are self-explanatory. Come on, guys. Best villain, that might be. I'm not sure if you were referring here to the performer or written-in type of villain.
I
who
think
had the most depth.
You know, I left it open because I was kind of like I felt maybe like trying to distinguish them would be a little too unwieldy, but so this is kind of like, it might be a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. And we can get into the reasons why later on. And then the last two are the best transformation scene or origin scene. So for example, Swamp Thing, his actual transformation, or for Mystery Men might be their coagulation into the group. Though I don't know if there's one particular scene for Mystery Men, but again, we'll get into that. And then finally, best movie. Again, pretty self-explanatory.
I think there was a scene where there's stuff, but I forget when it is.
So let's start with best costume then. My winner for best costume has to be Darkman. The makeup and the costume was superb. I think it was the best part of the movie. It was so well done, and the cinematography towards the costume, how they kind of just showed the shadows of it until the end, was superb. I might be blending those into one award though. So let me see what you guys think.
You know, that makes two of us, because Darkman was also my favorite. Just the black, the black outfit, black cape, and the hat.
Yeah.
The little hat on top, and then also the having the bandages on the face and hands as well.
Yeah.
Was much more unsettling than just having a mask or bat face.
I love that hat and coat because it was like it's so standard, it's so typical, but it fits so well. So I don't know if it was a cop out on their part or if it was really a smart choice.
I think I really don't care.
Me neither.
Justin?
Well, guys, that makes three of us.
Wow.
Because Darkman's costume is hands down my favorite. I'll just add on to what you guys said about it. Yeah, I love, it seems anachronistic in a lot of ways. Anachronistic, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I love it, the tension of feeling kind of like old-fashioned in a way, like it kind of reminds me like almost like something like a gunslinger would wear, but also feeling kind of modern. Like the color of it really stands out.
Yeah.
And I also love the homage. Like his design is also clearly influenced by the Invisible Man, so I love that kind of homage to older characters. And I love especially seeing Liam Neeson early on in that movie when he's a scientist. And there's something about the contrast between his white lab coat and then all of a sudden this creation, this darker color.
Oh, I didn't catch that before. Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes it stand out, and he really stands out from every other person in the movie with that costume.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love the wide brimmed hat. That was a great touch. I love the bandages. I love what he looks like under the bandages.
Yeah.
It's just really stellar design, and yeah, it might be kind of my favorite thing about that movie.
Absolutely. I have a couple honorable mentions. I put Unbreakable and Super just because they both really captured just the kind of realistic, down to earth, and yet, and in Super's case, kind of twisted reality in a way. So those are my honorable mentions.
Trench raincoat.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have picked them to win because you just buy something like that off the shelf, but.
It's also the way like Shyamalan shoots it, like it feels so much more. It feels much more than it actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
It really feels like his costume, even though it's not officially, like an official, like Darkman is clearly a costume, whereas here it's kind of like, what he would be wearing normally.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, I'm sorry, you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna go on to the next thing.
Yes, best sidekick or ally.
I feel like we're gonna have a three-way tie.
Well.
Again.
Well, for me, as far as best, there will. I don't know if there will ever be anything to top this, but within this marathon, no one topped Jude.
Jude, Reggie Batts, I think his name is, from Swamp Thing.
Yes, Reggie Batts. Yep.
Witty little Jude. Here comes. You want me over? Do you have a gun in this place? What sort of place do you think this is?
Of course, we have a gun.
Nothing top Jude for me. Nothing top Jude. Although Ellen Page holding literally nothing back.
Justin, who do you think wins best sidekick in this series?
Wow. Apparently, we're thinking very similar because it's Jude for me as well.
Oh.
And I really, I know. It's like there's just he really stuck with me throughout all these movies, and I just love. There's something about the way he just pops up in this movie. He doesn't there's no he's just all of a sudden he's there and he has his own way of operating, and he's really likable. He's just like the character that movie needed, and it really kept me invested.
Yes.
So I credit that both to just the character himself and to Reggie Batts who played him. And it's the most memorable sidekick I can think of. So I will say honorable mention for Ernie Hudson in The Crow.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah. You called it. We have a three-way tie here too. I think Jude, he wasn't essential to the story at all, but the movie without him would not have been enjoyable, even remotely as much as it was. And the character was, even though he was probably 14, 12, 10 in the movie, the actor was one of the best performances in the whole movie. Every line he delivered, even though the script was very cheesy, like it oozed with cheese, he's always sold the lines, whereas the other characters often failed.
And he's so matter of fact too.
Yeah,
that's what I love. Pulls out the
His
gun.
performance was actually the only performance. His performance was actually the only one in that movie that I bought into.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So honorable mention though I have for pretty much everybody in Mystery Men because it's a whole ensemble piece. I think William H Macy. They were all psychics off each other. They all did a good job of that.
That Mace is a good one.
Yeah. So Justin, lead us into Best Actress.
Oh, and the reason why I made this a separate category is because unfortunately most of the people we're talking about are all male. The actual main characters, the superheroes are male. So I kind of wanted this to just give some love to the ladies here because sometimes they could be the best part of a movie. And so my pick is, and I was going for, there was quite a few that I really liked. I actually really liked Adrienne Barbeau in Swamp Thing. I thought she gave more to that character than maybe that character even deserved. I liked Ellen Page quite a lot. But in the end, I had to go with Janeane Garofalo in Mystery Men as the bowler. She just had this, I just love that she comes in, she's the most confident, she knows what she's doing, and there's just something, she's very spunky, she adds this kind of, she really, I feel like, gets the Mystery Men to really start taking themselves seriously, to really start doing something.
Yeah.
And she's a badass, so it's like, what else could you want? And I really like Janeane Garofalo's work as that character.
No, Dad, I'm going back to college. That was the deal.
So for the first tiebreaker in all of our awards so far, I have to pick Ellen Page in Super as Libby, and that is not to say. What was her name? Janine, you said? Was her name Janine? The one who you picked? I'm sorry.
The actress's
name was Janine. Yeah, she's my honorable mention. She did a fantastic job in that part in a very male-dominated movie. Like you said, all these movies are male-dominated. There aren't many nominees for this category. But that said, Ellen Page, to me, oh my God, that level of energy, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a movie. And as someone who's come from an acting background, it's hard to get. I mean, maybe it's easier in film because you don't have to keep that level constantly. You can kind of take breaks. But
I would say that's harder. In some ways, that's harder actually because you have to be able to access that same. You have to get to that same place, just like that. As soon as the cameras start rolling,
you may be right.
Which is why a lot of screen actors stick to method acting, where they do not break character even off camera, which can get pretty stressful. Because then they might have to do that over days or even weeks.
So yeah, there's my winner.
Yeah, the rumors are that that's kind of what killed Heath Ledger. That totally depends on the actor. Totally depends on the actor. But I agree. Like just in terms of sheer spectacle, I don't think anything in any of these movies matched Ellen Page, because it is stupendous to watch everything she pulls out of that character.
Yeah.
But in terms of a performance that I bought as like a real person in a real world, and I actually sympathized with and was interested in, I have to go with Carol from Mystery Men. So,
all right.
Damn you, Casey.
No, that's okay. I'll take it. It was a close tie. I was torn between the bowler who was, as you said, very accessible and believable, or just the sheer spectacle and energy of Ellen Page. It was really torn for me. I might have leaned towards Ellen because I really love her, but that's a story for another time. Yeah. Plus, my girlfriend's listening, so she gave me the finger.
Wait, no. She's used to that in Casey. Let's be honest.
What?
She's used to it from your end. Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, also, she's a lesbian, Ellen Page, so I don't have much of a chance. So, anyway, moving on to best actor. We'll go to from actress. And I picked again. Oh, now that I'm looking at it, I picked Rainn Wilson from Super. I guess I liked the actors in Super. Why? Because he really, whether he was better than the rest, it's debatable, as I'm sure you guys will point out. But he really was both believable and sociopathic. He had this really good range that I bought into as the character. And he pulled, like I'm saying, he pulled off that kind of self-deprecating and also very powerful masked vigilante kind of act. So he's
Yeah.
my winner.
For me, it's really kind of a tie between Rainn Wilson and Bruce, because I really like both of their performances, and I think I'd have to go with Rainn Wilson, mostly because of performance in Unbreakable, but it was not the only thing about Unbreakable that I really liked. Whereas Rainn Wilson was really what kept me in Super, because the whole rest of the movie, with a lot of aspects of Super, I was like, okay, I felt like here or there could have used a bit more polishing or maybe a bit of a rewrite. But Rainn Wilson's performance was really what held the film together for me, because it is so, like Bruce Willis, it's very down to earth, but it really comes across as just straight up pathetic,
Yeah.
/ psychopathic, but with his psychopathism kind of coming from his awareness of how hapless he is,
Yeah.
and that's very hard to do well. I mean, Bruce Willis is not hapless and pathetic in Unbreakable. Like, he's a very subtle, quiet guy. Maybe a bit of a sleazeball because we see him hitting on that woman in the first scene. But he's not an idiot. He's not a loser, quote unquote.
In fact, he was a football star in high school.
Rainn Wilson really sold the idea of his character as the stereotypical loser, but in a way that felt very genuine and felt very real.
Absolutely.
And that was so. My vote also goes to Rainn Wilson.
Justin?
Well, we have another three-way tie because it's Rainn Wilson for me, hands down. Yeah. My only familiarity with Rainn Wilson before this was maybe some smaller supporting roles in things like Juno, in things like.
Oh my God, that's right, he's in Juno.
He has like a small part in Juno. He has a small part in this other movie, which I don't know if you guys have heard of or seen. It's called My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
I have heard of it.
Don't bother seeing it, but Rainn Wilson was the best part about it, no question. He plays like the friend, and he's just really kooky. But I also knew him like from The Office, so like that was really my only exposure. And to see him in Super and really see him bring out like a fleshed out character, which is really you don't see enough. I feel like in superhero movies, there's just like the pain and the self-loathing is so evident in his face. I love what he does with his face in that movie. The moment where, when he kind of goes on a rampage at the end after Ellen Page's character Libby gets killed, I think that was extremely believable. Very hard to watch. The one moment where the moment where he kills Kevin Bacon, starts stabbing over and over again, is really, I think also kind of heartrending. Really gut-wrenching.
Well, I was just going to say, he really pulled me in at the end of the introduction to the movie.
Yeah.
When you get the first kind of explanation and look at up to that point. After his wife leaves him the first time, he just has he's sobbing in his room, and he just has this one line, "People may cry." And the way he delivers it is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that was it was that moment that kind of pulled me into the movie from there on. Yeah, it's one of those roles that's really hard to like balance out, and I think he does it.
And it's funny because like sometimes I think when you remember a movie, you remember a certain image from that movie. I mean, at least for me, I'm very visual.
Yeah.
When I think of Super, the one scene I really remember is I think it's the last shot of the movie with Rainn Wilson looking at the wall where there's a drawing of Libby, and just his face is just like it's just got every conceivable emotion on it. There's just so much grief and pain and loss, all just summed up in that face. And to me, I really feel like Rainn Wilson is by far he gives the most complete performance for me in this marathon.
Honorable mention I have was Bruce Willis as David Dunn in Unbreakable. So they're both up there.
I'd also throw out. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd also throw out an honorable mention for William H. Macy.
Yes.
I just love how hapless he is, but also empowering he is to the team in Mystery Men. And he was part of why I did like certain things about Mystery Men.
Yes, good honorable mention. So then we'll go into my favorite category, best villain. Whose turn to start? Noah, bring us into this one.
So for me, if you go back to some of our earlier episodes here, a big complaint of mine was that the villains were in a lot of these movies were boring, 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 boring. One note: I'm evil because I'm evil. So given that, my pick for this is not, believe it or not, Kevin Bacon. Yeah. So for me, there is no other choice for this than Samuel L. Jackson from Unbreakable. Partly because, number one, because I think it's an interesting idea to have the antagonist be someone who, physically is so incapable of anything. But especially because it's such a different role for Samuel L. Jackson, who is always, always, always the badass, without exception. And it's the exact opposite here. So it's a role that he can't carry by his physical presence. He has to carry it in terms of his lines, how he delivers his lines, and his face. And I just loved watching him on screen in that movie. So, yeah, Samuel L. Jackson / Mr. Glass from Unbreakable.
Is there an echo in here or something? Because yeah, Samuel L. Jackson as Elijah Price. I mean, wow. I mean, honestly, I'm not entirely surprised we have as many similarities in our picks because I think some of these
boring awards ever.
Yeah, but yeah, it's Samuel L. Jackson is someone I love. I love when he does stuff like this movie because I feel like he gets typecast a lot. And I think he has much more versatility than a lot of people give him credit for. And I think you see in this movie, you're right, Noah. He can't really do a lot with his physical presence other than what you can do with really either limping or sitting in a wheelchair. So he has to do a lot with I think he does a lot with his face. I think there's something about the conviction in his plan that I love because you can always tell where it comes from. It comes from these feelings of weakness and insecurity, but also with the drive that you feel like he thinks what he's doing is right, even as he realizes the consequences of what he's doing. And that to me, I think when I think of that, I think a lot of Ozymandias in Watchmen. I definitely got I got that vibe from this character, Elijah Price. And again, I love that the last scene where he says to Bruce Willis, and he says, I realized I had to play the villain. There's just something about, there's a sadness there, but there's also this still a conviction that he feels like this was the right thing to do, even as he realizes the consequences of what he did. He's haunted, he's intelligent, he's complicated, and that's what you need in a great villain.
I think absolutely you guys said, if I wasn't picking him already, you guys would have sold me. Sam Jackson as Elijah Price in Unbreakable. But I do have to disagree. I don't think he's that limited in his physicality as much as you guys are saying. I mean, he can't run off the wall or chase bad guys, but he still has his presence. You can see his authority when he's standing next to Bruce Willis or when he's hobbling around. He still has that majesty, for lack of a better word, that just sells you as a I can't think of the right word, threat, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, and I don't know if many other actors could have pulled it off without having full access to their physicality. So, he was limited, but not as much as you guys gave him credit.
There is a physicality, but it's not the Mace Windu physicality.
Right, of course. Yeah. It is more limited, but less limited than I think you said. But yeah, Justin, I think, covered this in great depth. I love this villain not just because Sam Jackson performed so well in this role, but because of just the concept of the character really is something you don't see often. I'm not saying you don't ever see it. It may very well be a trope in some form, but where you have the villain create the hero. I love that. That's so interesting to me. It's explored a lot in the superhero comics where you can't have the hero without the villain kind of thing, like Batman.
But it's usually switched around. Like, the hero appears first, and then the supervillains pop up.
Not always. It's you can see both. I know the Joker likes to talk about this too, and I think they even talked about the Joker. Maybe not. Maybe that was copyrighted in this movie. But I love the play on villain and hero in comics that gets done a lot by the Joker, and that was done very well in this movie. I also love the idea of opposites. Like you have one super strong and one super weak, but has to rely on his brain. Not that Bruce Willis's character is dumb by any stretch. He's just not really a mastermind. So really, excellent writing on the character and excellent performance by Sam Jackson. So he gets my vote. Three-way tie. What do we? So that's what, 4 out of the 6 categories are three-way ties. I mean, I'm not too surprised because these we didn't have a lot of good nominations for these.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, we can see what we. I mean, the last 2. Is it 2 more?
2 more.
Transformation or origin scene, and then best film.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, bring us into transformation.
Well, and this was something I kind of I decided this was something we'd like to do as a category before I even saw any of the movies, and I was surprised. Like, a lot of the movies do have a direct kind of transformation scene, but some of the other ones, it's a little more abstract. Like, it's not. It might happen over the course of the film. It might happen in a montage that might not be a physical transformation, but it's certainly a mental one. So I think there's a lot of good ones to choose from. I like the one, there's one that sticks out for me is from, one of them that sticks out for me is the one from Super, and I'm counting the scene where the
hand of God
come in, remove Rainn Wilson's scalp, and proceed to probe his mind. That I love. That was kind of like a Cronenberg touch there. That was really clever. That one I like a lot. But the one that really, and the one I really love because I love the way that the director uses the film medium to capture it, is it's in The Crow. It's kind of it's just, I'm taking that whole scene of him, Brandon Lee crawling out of the grave, going back to his apartment, experiencing a stream of memories, and just, I love the editing in that scene. I love all the different physical stances that he takes. It's just really well choreographed and really well edited, and it really is really kind of heartbreaking because it's all done without words, and I love him grabbing, there's also, I love the first person, the point of view shots where he's taking the makeup and putting it on his face. It's just really well done, and it's really cinematic. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think of it. I didn't even give The Crow much credit. I just, when I was thinking of transformation scenes, I was thinking of just him crawling out of the grave, not even going back to his apartment. But you're right, that was very well done. I didn't pick one out earlier because I just couldn't really pick one out. They're all so different. They're almost hard to compare. You're right. Super stands out to me the most. That's the one that's going to stay in my head for a while, just because it's so disturbing. I think I'll pick Unbreakable's transformation scene, and that's the scene. I mean, he spends the entire movie saying, "No, I'm not a superhero. I don't have any powers. You're crazy. You're whack." And when he finally comes to accept it, he goes to the train depot, and he just puts his arms out. He just accepts the fact that he is, this hero, and you see all these different types of crimes, for lack of a better word, injustices that people are committing, and he's waiting for something. He's waiting for something worth his time, and then he sees this dude, murder a family, and he's like, I gotta stop that dude. It's very just like you can almost in your mind's eye see people doing that in a crowded subway station, and you almost wonder to yourself, I wonder if he's got superpowers. But yeah, I'm going with Unbreakable here.
It's gonna make 2 of us, so we don't have a unanimity here. But I do also feel that just because, again, the standard transformation scene is this big resounding music, and this long shot or rapid cutting, depending on what style you're going for. And, the hero's suiting up or something like that. But I like how downplayed the scene is, and I like that it starts with you hear Elijah's voice saying, I'm going to forget the exact line, But he's basically saying like there are no easy answers now. Like we're
He
like,
also says, "Go to where people are." I distinctly remember that line.
yeah.
Once he's accepted, okay, I'm going to do something, I'm going to test my power. That's what Elijah tells him. Go to where people are, which I think again ties into what we might have said earlier about what it means to be a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But he also has a line along the lines of there are no answers now, or there are no certain questions, or something like that, sort of acknowledging this very ambiguous world that Bruce Willis is about to enter into.
Yeah.
All right.
So
All right.
we're yet to have a three-way like tie. Let's see if that changes with best movie. Although I don't think that'll be the case.
You mean like to have all of us
Disagree?
Well,
Yeah,
or
that'll
at least have like our own preferences for a certain category.
Yeah, I think best movie might be because none of these movies stand out to any one of us as phenomenal. They all have, like Justin said earlier, touches of brilliance. God, I'm not even sure, and it's my turn to start. Can I pass for now? Someone else start.
I'll start. So my favorite is definitely Unbreakable. It's gotten the most votes for me in this category. So I've given it 3 votes now and an honorable mention. So yeah, Unbreakable, because it really is the most different in that it is not visually, just in terms of how the movie looks, it does not look like a superhero action movie with costumes and outlandish villains and big action pieces, or really anything involving weapons for that matter. When we talked about Unbreakable, we talked about how very, very realistic that fight scene is when he goes to save the family. He doesn't have a gun or a wrench like in Super or anything like that. Although I love how brutally effective they make the wrench in Super.
Yeah.
But yeah, Unbreakable was there was nothing like it. There was nothing. It was the most different, the most unique. And I do think it's the one other movie M. Night Shyamalan has done where his style and his method of filmmaking really clicked and really worked, like with Sixth Sense. It was really an experience to just sort of submit to this film and just to see where it was going. And it had, I think the most powerful scene for me in any of these movies was the scene where Bruce Willis's kid has the gun and says he's going to shoot his dad to prove that he can't be hurt. That was the most intense scene in any of these movies for me. And it was a really powerful moment, and there were a couple scenes like that in the movie. So, yeah, the choice for me is clear.
All right, Justin, do you disagree?
Oh no, unfortunately. I wish I could be unique here, but it's Unbreakable for me. It's very clear to me that the best movie. I think honestly, it was my favorite discussion that we had because I felt like we just were not we weren't running out of things to say about it.
Yeah.
Like just and I do think it is still a flawed movie, but I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. It doesn't feel like a superhero film. It was really refreshing to see that from a director who's now basically box office poison. And see that he could do great things. I think there are scenes in this movie that will stay with me for as long as any other scene I can, from other movies I can think of. The one image that really sticks with me, I think I mentioned it in our discussion, is where he's basically proceeding to take down the guy who the murderer in the house where all all the family members are tied up and everything. The one scene where he basically it's just like I just love flies in the convention of what we expect from a superhero fight scene because all he's doing is he's putting a chokehold on the guy.
Yeah.
But he's actually getting thrown around a lot. Like he's getting thrown around more than the villain is.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. It's all wordless. You just hear the guttural sounds of the guy, trying to breathe. And it's just so different from what you see and I really feel like that's what I love about the film is it felt like this is someone who's making a film about superheroes in his own way. And I love the characters. I love a lot of the ideas in this movie. I love the idea of a reluctant superhero who's afraid for various reasons. Not just, I mean, one because he thinks he has a distinct weakness, but also because he's maybe reluctant to face the responsibility that comes with being a superhero. And yeah, I just for me that is the clear winner. It's the movie I was so happy I saw. I think I was happier I saw this movie than the preceding four, honestly. Because it just represented a vision of superhero film, and I think it showed that superhero films don't have to fall into a set formula. They can be about superheroes and explore that concept in a unique way.
If if this award was for the critically speaking the best movie, I would have to agree that Unbreakable is probably the best production. It holds together the best. But that's not going to be my winner. Which movies are going to stay with me the longest, the deepest? It's probably going to be a two-way tie. It's probably going to be between Super and believe it or not, Darkman. When it comes to stories, movies, books, video games, what have you, what I always attach to, and I don't think this is unreasonable to say, are the characters. And so as a result, I really, really love anything that explores the psychology of unique characters. And Super is by far has some of the uniquest characters. And so I really, really loved the exploration of Rainn Wilson's character. And Darkman, Liam Neeson's character, it's been too long since I've seen this movie, so I'm not going to really be able to explain clearly what I mean. But I really loved watching his internal struggle. I know it was critically not done very well. It wasn't executed very well, but a lot of the concepts they really stuck with me. So from that perspective, I'm going to have to pick. If I had to pick one, I'll pick Super. But Darkman comes close, and then Unbreakable is my third.
Pick one.
Pick one? Super then.
Don't you wait here.
But Darkman, I really think Darkman's character will stick with me for a while. That I love those internal struggles. All right.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
There we have it.
This was our longest episode in a while, so we're a little tired, but hopefully you guys have stuck with us. Leave a comment below if you want to say anything, else or debate with anything we've said. Stick around. Check out our other videos. Check out any of the videos that we've done in the past. If you haven't seen any of these movies, we'll explain them in depth in our past videos. And stick around. Like us, subscribe, whatever you got to do. Have a good day.
Check out any and all of these movies. Honestly,
they're worth seeing if you have an hour to kill.
There are none of these movies where I would say no one should ever bother to see these.
Right. They're worth watching. I don't know if you're short for time though. Yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty I could recommend before these, but
at least take this for Swamp Thing so you can see Jude.
And boobs. There are boobs in Swamp Thing.
There are.
That's the only movie with boobs in this series.
That is true. That is true.
Okay. Goodbye, guys.